establish relationship across tables by way of foreign key. Okay, so we can establish relationship by way of foreign key. So when foreign key is established, there are some rules already. Rules are enforced. Okay, that's why it is called as RDBMS. Can you tell me what are those rules which are enforced? There's some noise. Okay, can you tell me what are the rules which are enforced in RDBMS uh, because of RDBMS? So referential integrity rules. So these rules are automatically enforced so that database data integrity is maintained. So since it's a database, it has a lot of advantages over traditional file systems. So we have some advantages like, so data independence. Data independence means if you're going to add or remove columns from DB2, your program need not undergo any change. But unlike a file, in a file, if your length is increased or decreased, you have to change the program, you have to change the JCL. But here it is not required. So program is independent of the structure of database or structure and length of database. Structure is nothing but length. Structure and format of database. It could be a fixed format or variable format. It doesn't matter. Okay, so only if the columns are going to be used in your program, you have to change the program. Otherwise, your program need not undergo any change. That is called data independence. The data security. The data security is in IMSDB. We enforce data security is through processing option as well as sensitive segment. Here, it is going to be security is enforced by way of views and grant and revoke commands. So views, database views are going to enforce security and grant and revoke. Why views? Because using a view, we can give access to a part of the table. Okay, we can filter rows, filter the columns, and create a view and give access to a department. But that's not possible for a file system. If you give access to a file system, if you browse or edit, you are going to see the complete file. You cannot restrict access for part of the file. While using views, we can restrict access to the part of the file. That is the advantage of using views, and that's a data security feature. And grant and revoke command is also available, where we can grant and revoke access whenever we want. Data independence, data integrity. So data integrity is maintained because DB2 is going to check for how is going to have constraints. Okay, when you're going to insert data into the system, insert or replacing data into the system, it is going to check for some rules. Rules are data type itself. It's a rule. For example, if you are defined as date or integer or small integer, whatever, if it is integer, it is going to accept only number. That is a rule. But if it's a same rule is not applied in a file system. If it is defined as 9 of 6, if you are moving spaces, it is going to accept. So data integrity is maintained by way of constraints. Constraints are rules which are enforced when data enters into the database. So for first primary rule is the data type itself. If it's a date, it is going to accept date only in the format YY-MM-DD, and is also going to check whether month is greater than less than 12, less than or equal to 12, and dates are also matching. If you are trying to insert 30 February 30, it is going to fail, saying it's a violation. So these are the rules. In addition to these rules, we have additional constraints like primary key, foreign key, not null, unique, etc. Check constraint, etc. So primary key is a rule. Primary key, what is primary key characteristics of a database? Primary key characteristic unique and not null. Okay, not null is a constraint. By default, the value is null. Not null is a constraint, and check is a constraint, etc. So what is a null? Null is also a question. A null is
a no value is either space.
No
No
value.
value.
no
It does
value.
not have any value.
No value. The value is there is no value in this database. So here I am in DB2, data insertion is optional. Okay, if you are going to insert data, but if you are going to write record, if you don't have a value in a field, if you have to move spaces or zeros, okay, it is going to occupy spaces. or zeros. But here in DB2, it is optional. If you don't know the value or don't have the value of any field, you can optionally insert, or you can avoid inserting. So if you are avoiding inserting, it is not going to allocate any storage for that. It is going to save the storage. Instead, it is going to set a flag. It's a single bit flag, which is called as null. So null means no storage itself is allocated because there is no value inserted for that record, for that field. So since there is no storage at all, no value is inserted. So there are many definitions for null. People say neither zero nor spaces or value unknown. You can say no value. No value is fine. By default, any column can be null. Okay, null means no storage will be allocated, and I mean no data is present, and but not null is a constraint. So these are constraints which maintain data integrity, and we have data consistency and concurrency. So data consistency and concurrency. Consistency means, so whenever you see the data, it is going to show correct data. Concurrency means many people can access the same data simultaneously. All these are done by data logs. So data logs are of three types. Page logs. Okay, in page log we have S log, shared log, U log, and X log. Okay, if one person has just, many people can have S. Out of this, only one person can get U, and that person can get X, exclusive log. When someone is having exclusive log, no one can read. No one is allowed to read. And we have isolation levels, which Pawan was asking, isolation levels, and then we have another set of parameters on the table level or table space level, which is acquire and release. Not acquire and release. These acquire and release will be given as a part of bind parameter. Probably you wouldn't have noticed much when you are binding the plants, but we are having a two fields, which is acquire, not acquire. Sorry, it's allocate. I think allocate and release. You would have seen in this in bind while binding the plant.
Sir, acquire only, no, sir.
Acquire only?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, good. So these are some logs which is going to maintain the data integrity and consistency and concurrency. Okay, so data independence is program is independent of data structure and type. So as far as isolation level is concerned, we have 4 isolation level. So we have repeatable read stability, cursor stability, and uncommitted read. So repeatable read is the entire table is logged. Okay, entire table is logged. Repeat double read stability. I gave a reference document, I think, DB2 reference document. I think that in that I have given this in detail. So locking is mechanism because nowadays many people, many transactions, and many transaction means online transaction, many bad jobs. Everything is trying to change the data in database simultaneously. So we need to maintain the integrity. Data can be trusted, and we have to make sure data is consistent. Whenever we see data, it should show proper data. Meaning, if someone is trying to update, it should not show you. If no one is updating, it should show the correct data. So if, for example, if you are trying to book a ticket and someone is already blocked the ticket and about to make payment, it should say it is not available for you. So that is consistency. And concurrency is many people is trying to access, and data is going to behave properly. So isolation levels are of 4 types: repeatable read stability, cursor stability, and uncommitted read. Which is default isolation level? Which is default?
Cursor stability.
Cursor stability. Cursor stability is the default isolation level. If you don't give, this isolation level will be given as a part of bind. So in bind we give acquire and release as well as this cursor stability. which determines what type of lock. So isolation level means isolated, how the record is isolated from the effects of other transactions and jobs. How the row is isolated from the effects of other transactions. So it is safer. So so if you see isolation level, we can determine which is going to get ulock. So because if one person is getting ulock, no one is going to get ulock. All others can still read, can have a S lock, but can still read, but no one can promote the lock to ulock. And only ulock can promote the lock to X and then update. So isolation level or the locks are important only for read for update or read for delete. Okay, if million people or billions are going to read a data, it doesn't matter. They can read. If I mean, Virat Kohli is posting a date in posting Instagram, millions are reading at the same time, no issues. But if one person is trying to change, then locking is essential. Or if one person is trying to delete, then locking is essential. So locking will come into picture only for reading for update or reading for deleting. When you're going to update and delete, first you are going to read and then make sure it is the one which is going to be updated or deleted. Then you are going to update or delete. So read for update and read for delete is the one which is going to apply the locks. And what is the lock you are going to get? So that all these are going to be applied against the rows, and all these determine the data locks are these three advantages are maintained. So in isolation level, there are 4 types of isolation level: repeatable read, read stability, cursor stability, uncommitted read. I think I gave an example for this. Okay, suppose if there are 100 rooms for booking in a resort, all the 100 rooms for all the 100 rooms, if the online program is using a DB2 table, assume it's anyway, we have modern database also RDBMS. If an online program have RDBMS, some RDBMS database, say Oracle, or even assume it's a DB2 connecting to mainframe, if it is compiled using based on the isolation level, repeatable read isolation level, the person who is entering for the first time, who is booking for the first time, he will get ulock for entire table. Okay, you'll be getting ulock for entire table, meaning say all the rooms in the table. So if one person is getting ulock, no one can get a ulock. They have to still wait for this transaction to end. Okay, or end abnormally or normally. So read stability means whatever is selected will be locked, will be having ulock. And cursor stability is wherever the cursor is present. Okay, can say a row or it could be a page also. Wherever the cursor is present, that row is locked for sure. And sometimes that page is locked, but page you can ignore. You can understand. You can say what that row is locked. So this is widely used in all the online booking system, whoever is selecting the row first, only for them it is locked. You'll be getting ulock. No one gets a ulock. They have to wait till the transaction ends. An uncommitted readers, no one is going to get a ulock. It's from yes. Assume it's straight away going to X. So this is used in IRCTC where they don't bother about people, and it's on first come first served. So after say if you say book tickets, if you go to next screen, it doesn't mean the tickets are insured unless you make the payment. And already before you make the payment, someone would have been making the payment for the same tickets. So no locks are applied for the table from book ticket onwards. Okay, the locks are applied only finally after the payment is made. You can assume it is from S to X directly. So these are some advantages of a database. These are some locking mechanism which make sure data integrity is maintained. So what is referential integrity rules? Remember, I'm telling about referential integrity because it's a RDBMS. So what are the rules? What are the foreign and primary key rules?
It is identifiably.
What?
It's unique and not null.
Not null, sir.
That is primary key. I'm talking about referential integrity rules.
The foreign key column values are the corresponding values in the primary key of the other table.
That's right. That is a foreign key definition. Hold on. Let me disconnect this. So I'm just changing the connection. Okay. So just see here. I'll ask a very quick question. I don't want to waste much time here. So we'll say employee. Say employee bonus. So we can say ID, name, and salary. So ID, bonus ID, BID, this EID, and bonus amount. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. We'll say Ramya. So 10K. So okay, 30K. Okay, Lavanya, Pavan. So we have a table like this. We have bonus table like this. BID, B amount. Okay, BID, EID, okay, and B amount. So bonus ID is 1, 2. EID is 2, 3, 10K, 10K. Okay, this is a table. Suppose I'm inserting a row here. 3, 4, 10K. Is it valid or not?
Not sir.
No, sir.
Why it is not valid?
Because there is no employee with the
ID should
ID
be
4.
in the employee table.
So when you're inserting a row in a child table, this is a parent table, child table, or it's a base table, derived table. Okay, when inserting a row in child table, it is going to check whether this is present or not. If it is not present, it is not going to allow, and it is going to give a negative SQL code minus 530. So this is the first rule, insert rule. I am changing this to 5. Is it correct or not? Updating this. Is 5 an employee ID or not?
No.
Again, this also it's incorrect. So when you assume you are defining employee ID, you are connecting employee ID with this employee ID. You are telling employee ID as a foreign key. Okay, this is a parent key, primary key in one table. So this is here. This is a primary key. Okay, here foreign key. This is a foreign key. It's a primary key of another table. Doesn't matter. But what is the rule? If you are trying to insert, is it valid? It's not valid. So these are called referential integrity rules. And if you're violating this rule, you're going to get negative SQL code minus 530. Okay, and this is the advantage of having a database, RDBMS. Relational database means you're going to establish relations using foreign key. And what is the advantage of using foreign key? Don't say it is join. So for joins, foreign keys are not required at all.
It maintains relationship between tables, sir.
For join, foreign key is not related at all, required at all. Okay, join can be done across any table, but usually there will be a common column. Okay, usually there will be otherwise there is no point of joining. Usually there will be a common column, but common column is not mandatory. And join is no longer is not related to a relational database or foreign key. Foreign key means RDBMS means relation database. You can establish relation across the tables. How do you establish relation? Foreign key. So if you have a relation setting relation like this, it is not going to allow this. Okay, it is going to allow. It's not going to allow this kind of invalid inserts and updates. So because of this, what happens? Data integrity is maintained. So we cannot have such relationship across VSAM files or PS files. Okay, no files can be related. But okay, there is one more relation. For example, For example, if you're deleting this one row, okay, if you're deleting this row, what it does, it is going to delete all the, assume 3 here, it is going to delete this also. Okay, this is called on delete cascade.
On delete cascade, sir.
Okay, there are on delete cascade, restrict and set null. I'm not going to tell all these, but all these 3 are the rules: insert rule, update rule, and delete rule. So when you have a foreign key relationship, you can maintain the database very easily. So data integrity is easily maintained. So okay, we are deleting. Suppose item database in Amazon, they are no longer going to sell iPhone 3, which was initially launched 10 years back, by 2010, I think. Yes, it's initially launched in 2010. Now it's no longer, it's obsolete. So when they delete the item number from the item database, if they give us an on delete cascade, it is going to delete from all the other database, like order database, manufacturer database, etc., etc. So it is on delete. So we have 3 rules: insert, update, and delete rules. Insert and update is in child, and delete is in parent table. So these rules are called referential integrity rules. These rules are automatically applied when there's a foreign key. And because of this, we call a DBMS as RDBMS. I'm going to delete this. Just hold on 2 minutes. Okay, now we will see for a database to be used in program. So, okay, let's come back here. For main, so you are going to create database in through a tool. Okay, it could be we use Poofy and QMF. So SQL is a language which is used to maintain the database. So we have 3 types of command: DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. I'm not going to get into too much about this. So here SQL can be either an interactive SQL or a embedded SQL. Interactive, we can use Poofy and QMF. There are many more tools. Probably in project it may be few more tools, which will be easily you can learn on your own. It'll be very easy. And embedded SQL. If you write SQL in a COBOL program, you compile and link it. It is nothing but a COBOL DB2 program. So embed SQL statements in programming language. It's called embedded programming. So if you after creating a table, so what are the prerequisites you have to do? After creating a table, you have to make sure if you are going to use the database in a program, you have to create DCLGen. So DCLGen stands for Declaration Generator. So it's an option in it's in a panel. So you can use, what is the input for this? Input for this is the table name, and output is DB2 table structure, table declaration, DB2 table declaration, and COBOL equivalent variables. COBOL equivalent structure or layout. This is called host variables. So it is going to create 2 outputs. One is a DB2 table declaration, a declared table name. It will be similar to create table name. But since DB2 data types cannot be understood by COBOL, we need an equivalent COBOL structure. Okay, and these are called host variables. So these 2 are outputs of a DCLGen. So DCLGen to be done for every table you are creating in the system. So what are host variables? So host variables are variables with which we send data to and from tables. Okay, which we send data to and from tables. So it is called as host variable because a programming language is called host language and database like a guest. Okay, since we are going, and these variables are of, so it's called as host variables because these variables are for host language. Host language here is COBOL. So variables of, you can say variables of host language used to send data to and from tables. The variables of host language used to send data from tables. It's going to be an interfacing. It's going to interface between the database and the programming language. And then these variables are working storage variables. These are working storage variables. Can be used anywhere in the program. Okay, can be used anywhere in program. If used inside the query, we have to prefix with colon. So host variables are variables created by DCLGen tool. These are variables of host language, is used to send data to and from tables. So these variables are used in SQL queries to send data to and from tables. So these are working storage variables, can be used anywhere in program. But if you use inside the query, we have to prefix with colon. Okay, so we need this for any table. Every table we need this declaration generator, DCLGen copybook. And how to use this DCLGen copybook using include statement. Then we have SQLCA. So what does SQLCA stands for?
SQL communication area.
Communication area.
Areas.
SQL communication area, structured query language communication area. It's a DB2 communication area, like we had DLI communication area. Who is going to fill this SQLCA? System is going to fill for after every SQL query execution. And there is going to be only one SQLCA for entire program. Okay, only one SQLCA for entire program. So we have to make sure we deal with SQLCA carefully because there's only one SQLCA for every entire program. So it is going to be only one SQL code for entire program. So you have to make sure we check this every time after every SQL query is executed. Okay, there'll be issues if we don't handle this properly. Okay, probably I'll give a small example. I'll give it a notepad instead because I don't want to rub this. Before that, I'll just tell you what is SQLCA. So what is the total length of SQLCA? So what it is 136 bytes in length.
136.
And the important parameter in this is SQL code. I think SQL code is S9 of 9 comp binary. S9 of 9 comp 9, or there are different comp 1, comp 2, comp 3, comp 4, comp 5, comp 9. Okay, we use only comp and comp 3 in programming, application programming. Remaining is for system programming. We don't bother about how system is going to store and retrieve. Okay, and it's S9 of 9 comp. It's 9 of 9 digits. S9 of 9. So even though it's S9 of 9, all the SQL codes is going to be only 3 digits. So any other field you are aware about apart from SQL code? On interview point of view, I'll tell you one thing. SQL ERRD, it occurs 6 times. It's an array. It's also a number like S9 of 9 comp. The SQL ERRD is another key field in the SQL communication area. And in SQL ERRD, third occurrence, what is the significance of this SQL ERRD 3?
It gives the how many rows are affected.
Fetches.
Okay, when you're doing mass update and mass delete, it is going to have the number of rows that was updated, okay, in the mass update and mass delete. But generally, it is never used. Okay, it is never used. Only interview point of view, which is required. and we never do mass update and mass delete because it is not allowed. Okay, mass update and mass delete is not allowed in projects. So for every program to be used with DB2, we need DCLG and SQLCA. One SQLCA for the entire program, and one DCLG for every table. You can use as many tables you want in your program. So when DCLG copybook and SQLCA are copied, then you can write queries in the procedure division. Okay, I told you we have some problem in SQLCA, right? Quickly, I'll just tell you. Suppose I write perform fetch para, since you know fetch until SQL code 100. Okay, in fetch para, suppose you fetch the item table. Okay, it's giving SQL code 0. Okay, now we are trying to insert into the order table. Suppose if it's say it's duplicate, it will give -803. Or if it is not having some other error, say -805. So now the SQL code is -805. Okay, so here assume you are not checking this at all, fetching and inserting. So it is going to give only -805 every time. So this will go in a loop, infinite loop, because SQL code 100 will never come at all. We don't. So generally, in until condition, we don't give SQL code. You have to give flag. Okay, we have to give flag equal to y, and this flag has to be set only if SQL code is 100, because SQL code is shared across different tables. Okay, it could be any table, any query, but SQL is the same SQL code. So SQL code, it's a better practice, especially for executing the loop. So in loop, don't give SQL code equal to 100. So you have to set a flag. Even file status 10 also is not allowed in projects. You have to set a flag. That place SQL code is going to get trouble. Okay. So there are different types of DDL commands you can use. As you are aware, we can use select, insert, update, delete. I'll just write it. So all the DML you can in project also you can use only 4 DML commands: select, insert, update, and delete. In select is a singleton select. A mass select is not allowed. Not allowed. It's mass select will not work. A singleton select means retrieving only one row, because we have only one set of variables, host variables. Okay, we cannot retrieve. If you retrieve more than one row into the program doesn't know how to store. The program will fail. Okay, if you are doing mass select, what is the SQL code you'll be getting? If you're getting more than one row into the program, what is the SQL code you'll get?
-811.
-811. Yes, -811 is a code which you are going to get if you are going to retrieve more than one row into the program, because program doesn't know how to handle this. There is only one set of host variables. So singleton select. A singleton select is like read random. When do you retrieve only one row? When you are going to give primary key. Okay, we are going to in var condition. So when you are going to give primary key in var condition, it's a singleton select. Singleton select means only one row is retrieved. It's a read random. Okay. So what is read sequential then?
Without where close.
Select fetch. So read sequential. When you do read sequential, when you're going to process all the rows in a DB2 table. Assume if you take any program, there will be a primary input to the program, which will be processed top to bottom. It could be a PS file or VSAM file or a DB2 table. if the EB2 table is a primary input, which you are going to process top to bottom, then you have to make sure you declare as a cursor. Declare a cursor and process one by one in a sequential mode. Okay, so what are the status codes for SQL select? What are the status codes or SQL codes? Sorry, it's going to be 0. Can anyone answer? There are plenty of people. 0 means what? 0 means
If
found.
there is data, then it will be 0.
So 0 means found. 100
Successful.
means
No
you can
more
say
rows.
no, not found or no more rows. Okay, or no more rows. Okay, singleton and select is nothing but random read. When do you say singleton select? When you use primary key in where condition, it is going to retrieve always one row into the program. It's a random read. Okay, for we don't give a random read as a primary input. Primary input means it's a read sequential. In singleton select, you are supposed to check two SQL codes, which is 0 and 100. 0 means found, record is read, or row is read. Here row is not found, or row no more rows. It teaches it searched. So singleton select means it's searching the entire table, and it says I didn't find. So it sets a SQL code as 100. In a read sequential, again you are going to get 0 and 100. 0 means successful read or successful fetch, and then 100 means end of table. End of table is reached. Someone is calling me.